What's cracking, people? This is the Devious Wolf, and starting off real good here today. And welcome back to another installment of Let Me Tell You Something. In this installment, I want to talk about gameplay, expectations, and what really constitutes a good and bad game. You know, what really constitutes a game that you can come back to repeatedly, as opposed to a game that wears out its welcome. And you might be wondering, why am I using this particular game? If you guys are wondering, or if you haven't read the video title, which I'm sure about 100% of you have done by this point, I'm playing this in Warriors Orochi 3. This is the game I want to use to illustrate this point. For those of you who are not in the know, Warriors Orochi is in the same, well, it's developed by the same studio, same company who develops the Dynasty Warriors games, which, if anybody worth their salt has been keeping up with gaming media and popular opinion, is widely regarded as one of the more horribly put out games, I should say. Is that game that's popular to hate on, if that's any indication. Think like Call of Duty, or actually I can't think of many good examples. Maybe Gears of War? Maybe. But the Dynasty Warriors series is generally hated for having repetitive gameplay. Is generally what it's hated for. That the gameplay is dull, unappealing, generally just not all that interesting. And they're accused of having what I like to coin the Call of Duty effect, in which they release in which every single game put out by the company in this vein just plays like the older games with no discrepancies, no variations, no nothing. And to some degree, that criticism is valid. I say to some degree, I think it pretty much is completely valid. But what's the word I want to use here? I don't find that to be entirely fair to a lot of games. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I'm not a big Call of Duty fan. As a matter of fact, it's my least favorite game series out there. However, this is going to lead into my main point. Also, in case you guys have not noticed, or if you're wondering, Warriors Orochi, to the best of my knowledge, up to a certain point in Koei Tecmo's career in publishing games in the West, they didn't use English voice actors very often. As a matter of fact, from what I can tell, it was entirely in Japanese the entire time through. Up until sometime in the I think we're in the 8th generation. I think we're in the 8th generation of consoles. So if I'm wrong about that, let's just say it wasn't until the PS3, 360, and Wii era games that Koei Tecmo started investing money into English voice acting. I said, I mean, late into the career, because Dead or Alive 4 still had Japanese voice acting. That's my barometer, because that was pretty much the only Tecmo Koei game I played at the time. I believe this is it. If not, I'm just going to do with it. But yeah. So this is what I want to kind of get into. Warriors Orochi, well, I think about Dynasty Warriors in general, in my opinion, is that game that that while good, you really don't want to play as a marathon all that much. Now I say that, and I've had this game for, at the time of this recording, less than half a year. Like, I think I got this, less than half a year. And I think every time I picked it up, I played for 5 hours at most, because that's about when I got bored of it, per sitting. And I think that's a pretty good time limit to put on for something like this. 5 hours, maybe a little bit less. I'll admit I have a greater threshold of pain, I guess, a greater patience for this kind of stuff. So I suppose that is probably why I can play for longer periods than most people do. But essentially, I want to get at. I'm sorry, my brain's kind of on and off today. Like, today's been a really off day. This has been on my mind for a good minute. But, Lord knows I'm not going to be able to articulate that at the moment. But I figure I might as well do it just so you guys can kind of see me at a dumb moment. But the gameplay is very solid. It's kind of, think of it like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta and Ninja Gaiden, in a sense, that is a combo-based hack and slash. However, is incredibly more limited. Granted, what I played of this game. Okay. Before I go off on these random tangents, I'm just gonna stick to the one thing right now, because going off on tangents is the surefire way to lose your audience. Haha. But is a combo-based hack and slash system. It's a combo-based hack and slash system. Now, whether or not it's any good, or not it's as good as Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, and Bayonetta, I would definitely say no. It doesn't come anywhere close. But for what the game's going for, it's more than enough. It is more than enough. Because the whole point of the Dynasty Warriors gameplay style is that you are one person with, in some cases, an overpowered sword, a fan, or tonfas, or whatever crazy thing they can think of, and you are just going after 1,000 people. And it is one of the most cathartic experiences I've ever had in a game. And I say that having played God of War, which was, for me, for at least for the longest time, the pinnacle of catharsis, which, go freaking figure, I would find something even better. It is the pinnacle of catharsis. That is what it is, true and through. And for being that being its premise, that being the main draw, the combo system, the combat system in this game, and honestly, in my opinion, is way more in depth than it has any right to be. Because the attacks, while a spectacle to behold, are also very satisfying to pull off. Like, they're crunchy, they have a weight, they shake the screen sometimes if they need to shake the screen. Like, they know how to place, how to make each attack have an impact to it. Now keep in mind, I'm saying this as someone who actually does enjoy the series. If you don't enjoy the series, everything I say might actually be reasons why you don't like it. So just keep that in mind. The point I'm trying to make here is about repetitive gameplay and how gameplay is kind of viewed nowadays, or how it is used, how it is not used, and all that good stuff. So that's more what I'm getting at. But I want to preface this by going over what I enjoy about Dynasty Warriors. For me personally, see, I think I've gone over everything I need to go over. Let me tell you something, sir. I think I said this before. Excuse me. If I said this before, I've said it 1,000 times. The Let Me Tell You Something series is going to be, more often than not, a very laid back, very impromptu, and very, very informal series. But for me anyway, my first introduction to the Dynasty Warriors series in terms of hearing about it was on a once popular game review channel that actually used to air on TV called X-Play on the G4 network. Those of you who remember X-Play will probably know what I'm talking about here. You know, Morgan Webb, Adam Sessler, and a third guy on there, but I popped on near the end of the series, and I popped on the time the series was about to go off the air, and I think that guy was once an intern. I think his name was like Blair or something. I want to say his name was Blair. I think his name might be Blair. I don't even remember. But it ran right before Attack of the Show some days, which was the accompaniment, which is pretty much everything in geek. That's in geek culture, in tech culture, and just in popular media. So there you go. But it got canceled in late 2011. And now it was really weird because it was like right after 2000's show special. No way to go, am I right? But it ended up getting canceled. Ratings just weren't going over the way they wanted to, and what's the one for here? What is the one for here? And G4 got bought out by another company. I don't remember. I just didn't keep up with it. But if you remember on X-Play, one of the popular jokes on X-Play was that anytime a Dynasty Warriors game came out, I think they were up to 8. They were either up to 8 or 9 at the time X-Play went off the air. And I want to say it was 8. They would always give it a 1-star review, and the reason they would cite for that review is that the gameplay has not changed. Now let's be honest here. That's a pretty valid excuse. That's a very valid reason to give a game a low score. If the successors are not improving on the formula of the predecessor, why waste your time, right? And think about it. Do you want to waste your time on a game that doesn't add anything new? It's just the thing, and the things they do add are token gestures at best, completely forgettable at worst. Would you want to waste your time on a game like that? Probably not. So in my mind, from what I've heard from X-Play, from Adam Sessler and Morgan at the time, I said, okay, well, they gave a pretty decent reason as to why the game sucks. I don't see why I should disagree with them. And this is from me having not played the game. So every time I would go to Hollywood Video, I remember when Hollywood Video was a thing, you know, the game rental store, or even further back, Blockbuster. Yeah. So anytime I go to one of these rental stores, I would see Dynasty Warriors and go, well, I should probably avoid it because, well, this reviewing television series said so. I don't think they would be on the air if they were lying. And every time I go in there, I would see Dynasty Warriors Gundam. Now I was a big Gundam fan, so when I saw that, I'm thinking, oh, this must just be a really bad way to gain attention or something like that. And to my great surprise, one day about 2 years later, I downloaded the demo for the original Dynasty Warriors Gundam off of the XBLA Marketplace. And what I played, being able to play as the Wing Gundam from I want to say my very first Gundam series. Like, that was the Gundam series that got me into Gundam. It was Wing Gundam. It was Gundam Wing. To be able to play as the Zero, that was amazing to me. That was amazing to me. And it played so well. It was so much fun to play through. And when the demo ended, I'm like, I want more. I want more of this. Now, at this point in the game, Hollywood Video had gone under. I couldn't just up and get it. So I figured, well, if I have money to burn one day, I'll just go ahead and buy it. because at this point in the game, Dynasty Warriors Gundam's about a good 6 years old. And Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2 had already come out, and they had just announced Dynasty Warriors Gundam 3. So I could get Dynasty Warriors Gundam 1 and 2 for like $12. So one day I did. I spent $12, I got him, and I played through the first one. And this was like, and to put it into perspective, I'm speaking too fast again. To put this into perspective, this was like the perfect storm for me. Because I had gotten like a big Gundam kick. I went back and I rewatched, and I watched and rewatched and experienced for the first time the original Gundam series, and I watched every Gundam series up to the current one I was running at the time, which was Gundam, I think it was Gundam 00. I think it was 00 Gundam or Gundam AGE. I can't remember which one. Because it was like, it was the one before Unicorn. I remember it was the one before Unicorn. That much I'm willing to bet on. It was the one before Unicorn. And after watching all those series, getting caught up, finally experiencing a series that as much as I loved, I never actually got to fully experience just because I didn't have the time, I didn't know any better. Because up to that point, my only experience with Gundam was Gundam Wing, G Gundam, and Gundam Seed. I didn't even know about Seed Destiny at all. And having all that baggage with me and just re-experiencing a childhood favorite, an oldie but a goodie as I would call it, and seeing how much detail they put into making a original storyline with characters from, for all intents and purposes, different series and different timelines, and have them mingle together was just a sight to behold. And then to be able to play as your favorite mech blowing through thousands and thousands and thousands of iconic machines from the Gundam universe, it was a blast. And I immediately went to the second one, and the novelty did not wear off. If anything, I noticed where it improved, where it got better, where I had much, much more fun with it. And then I got Gundam 3, and it just continued to blow my mind out the water. So as I'm sitting here playing through Wars of Orochi now, I came back and picked it up. I remembered that the same company had recently been commissioned by Nintendo to make a Dynasty Warriors game with Zelda characters. Now, as of this recording, I have not experienced it beyond what I've seen online, and what I've seen online, I really want to get a Wii U to play it. Or I guess at this point it'd be the NX. I don't know if that's, I don't even know how much of that's going to have to be a thing, but you get what I'm saying here. And I remember back to X-Play, I remember back to them bragging on this game, saying how it was boring and repetitive, and you shouldn't waste your money on it, and it's just bad, it's just horribly, irreparably bad. And I started thinking, wait a minute, didn't you guys give Call of Duty the exact opposite reaction? Calling it the best game out there, that it was really good. Now, keep in mind, what I'm about to say, I say as someone who fell out of Call of Duty. I say as someone whose first Call of Duty game was Modern Warfare 2, has experienced Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 1 and 2, and Ghosts. Modern Call of Duty, as of those experiences with it, is a very solid title. It really is. I cannot say with a straight face that Call of Duty is bad in any sense of the word. Well, at least when it comes to gameplay. But the issues that people would say that people said I would suffer as a result of playing Dynasty Warriors in general, surprisingly, I didn't suffer yet. And I've been playing Dynasty Warriors for the last 3 years now. Ironically enough, I hit that with Call of Duty. I found the gameplay to be repetitive, and I found the additions they made between installments just wasn't worth a $60 asking price. No, maybe $30? Sure, I'd probably be a little less skeptical of it. But as it stands right now, it's just $30 for essentially, in my opinion, DLC that should have been $5. Just doesn't justify the asking price. And then I started thinking about it today. I'm like, well, why don't I like this? Why don't I like Call of Duty when I enjoy a series? Like, why don't I enjoy Call of Duty, a series that is very beloved, has a very big following, and for good reason. Why is it that I enjoy a game series that gets nothing but ridicule, is not seen as any good, is panned and mocked for being repetitive, cheap, and all this other stuff, and it finally hit me. I don't play games for gameplay anymore. Excuse me. I used to. Keep in mind, I grew up in the mid to late 90s. I'm not gonna say when I was born, but I pretty much grew up in the mid to late 90s. This was right in the swing of when games were starting to, well, at least in my opinion, this was right around the time games were starting to really up the ante with what you can do with a game. You can tell stories, you can have voice acting, all this other stuff. And that's why Sonic Adventure stuck with me so much. I think that was like I think that was the first real game that really got me hooked into video games. But I've always enjoyed a story, and for me, a story at the very least had to entertain. A good story in my eyes was something that could entertain you. It's something that, even if it's sparse and sporadic, it had to offer something, be it, I guess, for lack of a better word, in case of a lot of games, be it fan service or be it just a bunch of strange jokes. It had to show me that is at least trying to be not only a good gameplay experience, but also a good narrative experience. And Call of Duty, I didn't get that. The characters, like I hear a lot of people say that because Halo is one of my favorite shooters. My favorite shooter of all time is a game called Star Wars Republic Commando, which sadly never got a sequel, and anyone who's played that game up to the ending knows exactly why that irks me to no end. But these two games, Halo and Republic Commando, were solid gameplay titles. Republic Commando played a little bit faster than Halo, but it also had the Star Wars seal of approval in terms of storytelling. Halo played a little bit slower, but it had a very good story, and both games had very memorable characters. Yeah, a lot of them were cliches and archetypes, but they were so well done that I didn't care. And when it came to Call of Duty, I got so bored of those characters. The only characters I remember are Price and Ghost. Price because I remember you had to rescue him, and he was like some British dude. He might have not even been British. I really don't care at this point. And Ghost because he wore a toboggan that had a skull painted on the front of it. Not really a ghost now, are you? But now I'm getting into flame territory. Why did I say that? Now I'm getting to personal gripe territory more so than usual. But I just didn't care for it. And the gameplay, while good, was not enough to keep me coming back. Now, Warriors Orochi, the thing that Orochi has up on Call of Duty is that Call of Duty tries to be this, and I know there's some people out there who probably disagree with me. You're more than welcome to. As a matter of fact, I encourage it. If you have any dissenting opinions, leave them in the comments below. But for the life of me, Call of Duty tries to be this introspective look at war and how war is bad and yada 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 yada. A lot of things people cite is like the ending of Modern Warfare to the original Modern Warfare, which was Call of Duty 4. And some new things. He's like, yeah, well, Call of Duty did this thing like the new thing. I'm like, maybe, but did you care about the character, or did you care about one moment in this character's existence within the game? So if that's the case, I would not count that. Because that impact, as grandiose as it may be, if you didn't care about the character, and from what I can experience of Modern Warfare 2's writing, I have no qualms with saying that I don't think I would care about the character you play as. That moment's not going to hit. It's not going to land for me. If anything, it's going to fall flat, because it just simply is not memorable. For something like this game is based heavily in Japanese history and mythology. Now, when I say heavily, I don't mean that it's very faithful to it. I mean that it sets its time period. Its setting is deep in the mythology, in the history, and they play very loose with it. From what I've seen, I'll admit I'm not a very big Japanese history buff. I mostly know more about Greece, Greek history, blah 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 blah. I'm most interested. Words, how do they freaking work? But to get off of that little tongue-numbing debauchery that was sound. It's setting. I know more about Greece because I'm a theater guy. I mostly dabble in theater and the arts and whatnot, and I'm a big fan of mythology. So I know more about Greece and whatnot. I've recently got into Japanese mythology, and I aim to jump into African mythology at some point in the game, just because I'm very interested in African mythology. But what Dynasty Warriors does with its story, what Dynasty Warriors does is it creates an atmosphere. It creates a very interesting atmosphere based around these mythological characters, around these historical figures, and turns it into this joyous romp that, in my opinion, is worth exploring, just because it's so fun to watch these characters be so over the top, be so colorful, for lack of a better term, because the game itself isn't very colorful. It suffers from that gray, brown, and red aesthetic, and so when color does pop up, it's like, color, there's green. But it more than makes up for that with the characters themselves, because the characters themselves are so fun to just explore and delve into. It's so much fun to just experience. And that's more or less what I'm trying to get at here. Is that when it comes to repetition, when it comes to gameplay, every game under the sun, if you really think about it, is very repetitive. Every single game ever made is repetitive. What matters is how quick you notice it and what you're looking for. If you're looking for a pure gameplay experience, you're probably going to pick it up once, play it through, and return it. If you're anything like me, I completely forgot about this character. If you're anything like me, and you look for something beyond the gameplay, maybe you look for the music in the game, maybe you're like me, you look for the story in the game, or maybe you're more like me and you look for how all those points mesh together, that's what really makes a good game. In Call of Duty, games like Call of Duty, while they are very fun games, and while they really honestly don't have anything wrong, I think the only thing Call of Duty needs to do now is just keep refining the formula at this point. I don't think they can go wrong with that. It needs to have a little bit more to it. And now, luckily nowadays, Call of Duty has 3 developers working on it, so you get one game every 3 years, and conversely, each game that comes out subsequently has 3 years to digest, 3 years to really focus. So I'm expecting to see a little bit more quality come out from Call of Duty in the coming months, in the coming years going forward. But I'm just, at this point, I'm so jaded by it, I don't even care. I want to stick to games like Warriors Orochi, well, like Dynasty Warriors, like Halo, like Star Wars, who are able to give me these fun, engaging experiences with very good gameplay, but also give me good stories. Either stories that make me think, make me feel, or just make me laugh. Because don't get it twisted, a good story isn't just how much the story makes you think. It isn't just how philosophical the story gets. A good story is a story that can keep your attention, keep you entertained, and ultimately leave you with a feeling of satisfaction. I like that. I went into this video trying to talk about gameplay, and I ended up coming out of it talking about what really makes a game good. Isn't that interesting? But at any rate, I want to finish this little rant, this little video, by asking you guys, what do you look for in a video game? What do you look for? Actually, scratch that. What do you look for in any form of entertainment in the modern era, be it comics, books, movies, television, or games? Do you look for gameplay? Do you look for effects? Do you look for story? Do you look for sound? Do you look for a mixture? Is there something you prioritize over one or the other? Let me know. In the meantime, I have been the Devious Wolf, and I will see you in the next one.